Hi, I'm John, and welcome back to Dice Paper Miniatures. In this episode, we're going to look at the new Season of War Thondia for Age of Sigmar. Let's begin. So for this episode, we're actually going to look at two articles from the Warhammer community site. The first is going to be for the Kronspine Incarnate, and the second article will be for the new Path to Glory Battle Pack. All right, so to start with, we're actually going to look at what's being called an Incarnate for Age of Sigmar, and the first one up is the Kronspine. Now, we've seen this model before already a few times, but now we actually get some actual in-game rules for this new model. So to start, these primal entities are manifestations of the magical energy of the realm of beasts. And now it's time to look at how they'll change your games of Warhammer Age of Sigmar when Season of War Thondia arrives for pre-order this weekend. So here we have some of the mechanics now for this actual model. So we have Vicious Claws and Tearing Fangs. So these stats aren't bad. So Vicious Claws, 1-inch range, 6 asterisks attack, and we'll explain that here in a moment. 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound, -2 rend and 2 damage. Okay, not bad. Tearing Fangs, 2-inch range, 1 asterisk attack, 3+ to hit, 2+ to wound, -3 on rend, and 4 damage. All right, so the asterisk for the attacks is you add in the Incarnate's level to the attack characteristic. So what does that mean? Goes on to say, those attacks sport a hefty amount of rend and damage, and they're exceptionally reliable, hitting on a 3+ and wounding on 3+ or 2+. The number of attacks the Kronspine Incarnate can make will change according to how powerful it is, but right off the bat, it starts each game with the fearsome 11 attacks. So they'll explain on how they get to those 11 attacks here in a moment. So yes, Incarnates wax and wane in power throughout the game according to how suffused they are with arcane power. The better they're doing, the more lethal they become, and the harder they are to kill. Incarnates don't even have a wounds characteristic. It's kind of tricky to injure a howling mass of realm energy tethered to an assortment of bones and realm stone. Instead, their power is marked by a series of states running from empowered to abolished. So here we have their states table below. The Incarnate starts at primal, so let's bring that chart up just a little bit. Perfect. And it will shift up as it devours endless spells and slays monsters, or down if it suffers damage. These vortexes of thaumaturgical, oh my god, seriously? These vortexes of thaumaturgical, Jesus Christ. These vortexes of thaumaturgical energies, yes, it took like 12 attempts to say that word, can even turn endless spells into phantasmal prey. If an Incarnate ends up within charge distance of one such wandering spell, it may choose to charge and perform a special monstrous rampage to chow down and increase its level. If it fails, however, its level falls as it weakens from the clash of energies. All right, so again, we start off with that primal, which is level 2. So if we go back up to the chart here, this is how we get 11. So 6 and 2 is 8. And then 1 and 2 is 3, so 8 and 3, that's your 11. That's where you get your base 11 attacks. So, Monstrous Rampage. Devour endless spells. Pick one endless spell that was summoned by an enemy wizard, and that is within 3 inches of this Incarnate. And roll 2d6. Add this Incarnate's level to the roll. If the roll is greater than the casting value of that spell used to summon that endless spell is dispelled, and the level of this Incarnate is increased by 1. On any other roll, the level of this Incarnate is reduced by 1. Yeah, this is interesting. I'll kind of have a summary of thoughts on this here in a moment. So how in the world does an army cope with such elemental savagery? A hero with enough willpower can bond with one of these creations, corralling their bestial intelligence and pointing them at enemy lines. Every faction may wrangle these specters to do their bidding, but there's a cost. If the hero of the Incarnate is bonded to dies, it reverts to its wild form. In this state, it is yet more savage, and in its mindless aggression, it treats all forces, be friend or foe, or an endless spell, as targets to sate its bloodlust. Okay, so wild form. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by this Incarnate while it is in its wild form. This incarnate can run and still charge in the same turn while it's in its wild form. If this incarnate is in its wild form and is within 12 inches of a unit or an endless spell at the start of your charge phase, it must attempt to charge and must make a charge move if it is possible for it to do so. So they have designer notes here. Remember that an incarnate in its wild form treats other units in your army as enemy units, so it may be forced to charge and attack those units. So even in its wild form, not all hope is lost. As long as you keep your units away from it, it could still be going after the enemy units as intended. So let's see what it has to say further down. Their unpredictable nature makes the incarnates a serious risk, but one with a mighty reward. A general who seeks to bend one of these savage entities to their will must protect the champion who undertook the task or pay the price. But wait, there's more. That's not all the Kronspine incarnate can bring to the table. Besides vicious attacks, magic munching, and unpredictable behavior, this living maelstrom also exudes an aura that can turn even sage warriors savage. Alright? These energy waves are so powerful that they even flooded Inastra with violent emotion and transformed her Stormcast Eternal allies into barely conscious feral brutes. So yeah, this is where you have to buy the book. This is all explained in full in Season of War Thondia, an upcoming supplement for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, which covers everything you need to know about Kronspine Incarnates and plenty more besides for all 3 ways to play. Okay. Then there's the Thondian Strong Point, which features a range of Gurish terrain, including a Titanic skeleton, under construction Dawnbringer Crusade fortifications, and a Kronspine Incarnate ready and waiting to tear them, and any warriors foolish enough to traipse through its domain. So this is the box set, of course, and the book for Season of War Thondia. So initially, I thought the Kronspine Incarnate was just one of the types of incarnates, but the way they write it here, sometimes it's the Kronspine Incarnate, sometimes it's the Kronspine Incarnates, as if there's going to be different types of Kronspine Incarnates. I'm not sure. I thought it was just Incarnates, and this first one happens to be a Kronspine. I'm going to assume that's what they're implying, since they also spelled it differently. If we look further down in the article, they called it the Kronspone. So your guess is as good as mine, but I'm thinking there's these different types of incarnates, at least for now in Gur, and Kronspine is one of them, but there may be different Kronspine incarnates, and the first one is just the generic Kronspine, and then there might be some other types of Kronspine incarnates. Yeah, we'll find out eventually. Now, my only issue really, this can be used in competitive play, I believe, and I do like it overall, I think. It definitely brings a new layer to the game. Now, is it necessary? Probably not. But it is interesting, and if it is something you might see in competitive play, it's something to be mindful of because it can really screw with your endless spells and is relatively a strong unit. I think for armies that don't have access to large monsters, this could be a good supplement to your army if you want to work in a type of large monster, or monster, into your actual ranks. So that's something to consider, I think. Furthermore, my only other real issue outside of it could go, there's pros and cons to including it in your army depending on your army makeup. But the real kicker I have for this is, since this is kind of doing a couple different things, it's kind of like an endless spell, it's kind of like a unit. The fact that they're kind of putting it essentially behind a paywall by putting it in a terrain box set. I'm assuming at some point this thing may be an a la carte available on its own to purchase, but as it sits right now, they haven't said anything to that effect. We don't know if it will be available by itself. Historically, a lot of these Realmscape / Endless Spell boxes, they don't really break them apart. Usually, if you want to get them individually, you have to go to something like eBay. So I have a feeling it could become available by itself, but I'm going to assume it's probably not. So maybe if this is something you want and your friend doesn't, but maybe your friend wants the terrain. Maybe this is something you can buy the terrain box set and just split the cost. Figure out what you think those components are worth individually and make a deal with your friend. Otherwise, if you want both, this is probably the best way to get them, because if they actually do split them up, the value is always better in these box sets. So let's go ahead and jump into the other part of this discussion. So here we have the article that kind of goes over the new Path to Glory battle pack. So it goes on, the drums of war beat louder and louder in the realm of beasts. As Season War of Thondia draws even closer, the Savage Tome is swarming with detailed lore and maps for the Alpha Continent of Thondia, where everything is a predator or prey, even magic. The most alarming discovery is the Kronspine Incarnate, a rampaging vortex of living Gurish energy that devours endless spells and decimates legions. Season of War Thondia also contains new rules for all styles of play, including an additional Path to Glory battle pack for your narrative campaigns. By claiming victory in one of 6 new narrative battle packs, your army can establish an outpost in the endless contested wilds of Thondia. From here, you can press deeper into the primeval wilderness and start the process of growing a huge new settlement. That sounds pretty cool. I don't do narrative as much, but I may start going in this direction from time to time. So the Thondian Strongpoint terrain set is designed precisely to accommodate these aims, and it's filled with enough set dressing to make you feel the braising heat of Gur emanating from your tabletop. Sure it does. As your Path to Glory army earns renown in its attempt to carve up Thondia, your warriors can pick up bestial new veteran abilities, such as Savage Instinct, which imbues a unit with the feral energy they need to strike first in combat once per battle. Alright, the Alpha content also offers new hunting grounds dominated by mighty beasts, giving you the chance to capture prime monsters, brutes that would have no qualms gnawing on the bones of a Megadroth. If you choose to undertake the formidable task of setting up a distant outpost in Gur, you can make a prime monster roll when adding a monster to your order of battle. On a 5+, you've tamed a particularly impressive specimen with a special ability, such as the aptly named Fearsome, which allows the creature to completely ignore its wounds when consulting the damage table once per battle. Alright. From your Thondian outpost, your army can also lay claim to fierce new territories unique to Thondia, each with their own abilities. The Grinding Mountains seek to prey upon the other peaks of Gur, conquer them, and you'll be able to mine vast deposits of Realmstone, but risk seeing your other upgraded territories reduced to rubble with each seismic scrap. Whether your army is establishing a mighty fortress in Gur or using a realm gate to scour other lands, true trailblazers have the option to send a unit that wasn't involved in the most recent battle out on a scouting expedition. By rolling on the expedition table, your explorers can scour the tumultuous Thundian wilderness for rampaging beasts, forgotten ruins, or new routes through the wastes. These expeditions aren't guaranteed to succeed, but you can seize tasty rewards if your warriors prevail, perhaps unlocking a powerful endless spell from a legendary storm vault. That's pretty cool. So roll a dice. On a 1 through 4, the scouts are unable to open the storm vault and the expedition is a failure. On a 5+, the scouts are able to open the storm vault and you can add 1 endless spell or invocation available to your faction to your vault. So there are a plethora of discoveries only found in the untamed lands of Thondia, even unique quests for binding a Kronspine Incarnate or tracking down a hero hailing from Gur. Yes, you can go on a quest to recruit a custom character of your own design, forged on the divine heat of the Anvil of Apotheosis, Gur. That is pretty cool. I've talked about that before in previous articles. So you can create anything from a leader for your force to recruit early and use throughout the campaign to an enormous monster to put a final cap on your force. We'll be covering how the Anvil works later this week. Stay tuned. Hey, GW, you got a lot of typos in these last 2 articles I've covered. I'm just saying, if you need a proofreader, copy editor, hook me up. The rules in Season of War Thondia will add some extra bite to any Path to Glory campaign. You can even follow the Summons of War battle pack to play through the background of the book itself, using new battle plans and battalions as you fight over the Strongpoint terrain and embrace the era of the beast. Alright, that's pretty cool. So yeah, Season of War Thondia and the massive Thondian Strongpoint terrain set are both available for pre-order this Saturday. If you're watching this a little bit later, the Saturday we are referring to is Saturday, April 9th. That's when it goes for pre-order. If you watch this episode after that date, well, check your local stores or GW Online. All right, so kind of a brief recap of this terrain set. Overall, I think the terrain set's great. I think this battle pack is pretty cool, especially for narrative purposes. Fearsome's interesting. Adding in an endless spell to your Storm Vault's pretty cool. Now, that being said, if you're not a narrative player, yeah, you could probably skip this altogether. Otherwise, I think this could be a fun supplement, especially if you have a couple friends that are really into this kind of thing. That makes all the difference for these narrative plays. This is definitely not something you typically can just do a pickup at your local friendly game store, right? So those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your comments about both the new Path to Glory battle pack, this new Season of War, as well as this new upcoming terrain set. And what do you think of that Kronspine Incarnate, especially if you are into competitive play? Is that something you think you'd like to include in your army? And what do you think about going up against it as the opposing player? I I think I like it. I'm still not 100% on it. And like I said, I wish they would offer these things separate from a big box set. But all things considered, it is the best value for your buck to get that box set, especially if you ever think about you'd want to buy these components separately. So those are my thoughts. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't yet and you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell below. It really does help with the growth of the channel, and so does sharing this content. Yeah, all of those things are greatly appreciated. And with that, I hope everyone's doing well, be safe, take care, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.